you've got all this flood of LGBT propaganda books that are sexualizing children, pushing ideology that's counter to our faith, and you're flying the LGBT pride flag throughout the month of June. This is wrong. It's an attack on the Catholic faith, on the Catholic Church. We read from those pages to the trustees, and so they couldn't deny that this is what they allowed into the system.
Well, folks, that was quite the heated debate last night at the Waterloo Catholic District School Board in Kitchener, Ontario. But here's the thing, unless you were there, you never got to see or hear it, because this school board inexplicably forbids live streaming, and they won't even let attendees cover it via video or audio. As for journalists, well, yours truly, I'm still serving a 2-year suspension penalty box notice. No, folks, I did not break into the Waterloo Catholic District School Board, but back in 2023, I asked its director an impolite question, and that is tantamount to trespassing. Unbelievable. However, we are lucky to have with us Jack Fonseca. He is the Director of Political Operations for the Campaign Life Coalition. And Jack, thank you so much for making time out of your busy schedule to join me today. First of all, what was the issue at play at the school board where, as I've been told, because once again, I couldn't be there to eyewitness it, it was standing room only for parents?
Yeah, there was, by one count, over 120 parents and Catholic ratepayers there. And they were there because of an ongoing demand by Catholic electors and other Catholic stakeholders in the Waterloo Catholic School Board community to remove a stockpile of LGBT propaganda books that was discovered at Canadian Martyrs Catholic Elementary School by a concerned parent. And so there were 4 delegates there to speak against these LGBT propaganda books, including myself. I live in the region, I'm a parent, and I pay taxes to cover their salary. So I was there delegating as well.
How does this material, which runs contrary to Catholic values and what some people would say is downright obscene, how does it get into Catholic schools in the first place?
Well, obviously there are people within the system who are bad actors, who do not believe in the Holy Catholic faith, who reject Catholic and biblical teaching on human sexuality, on homosexuality, transgenderism, transvestitism, all of those issues. So they've ensconced themselves within the school board and are promoting their personal agenda, their political agenda, their radical sexual agenda to undermine Catholic teaching, Christian teaching, and they've been doing it for years. Unfortunately, they've been flooding the school with teachings contrary to what the church teaches on these issues.
I see an agenda at play that instead of protesting what a Catholic school board is doing, let's worm our way in under false pretenses and flip these school boards from within. And it's not just Waterloo District. We keep seeing the flag debate coming up at other Catholic school boards in the province. Am I right in this assessment?
Yeah. I think, many of them are, I'm sure, are baptized Catholics. But they don't believe the faith anymore. Otherwise, they wouldn't be pushing transgenderism in the schools. This is, for them, a job that pays well. And hey, they get to push their own personal views and wage war against the church that they disagree with. The organization that provides the faith formation for teachers coming up through the system is called OECTA, the Ontario English Catholic Teachers Association, and it is a radically anti-Catholic organization. It shouldn't even be allowed to use the name Catholic because it is rabidly contemptuous and hateful towards the teachings of the church on homosexuality, transgenderism. They march in the Gay Pride Parade. They put on seminars training these young teachers to reject biblical teaching and instead to embrace their secular view.
It is crazy. And Jack, I witnessed firsthand about how radical the English Catholic Teachers Association is at the Dufferin-Peel Catholic District School Board. If you can imagine, 3 times in the space of 6 months, the board has been pressured and downright bullied to adopt raising the rainbow flag in the month of June. And at the last meeting, and they're bringing out heavy hitters like Kathleen Wynne, the former premier of the province of Ontario. And I can tell you, when I saw the delegation from the English Catholic Teachers Association speak, this woman actually said that the rainbow flag is a matter of life and death.
When I tell you the decisions you make here today could save a life, it is not an exaggeration.
Jack, come on, that's a stretch, is it not?
It's just a lie. It's a pressure tactic that they use to kind of appeal to instill fear in the people who hear them, to say, oh goodness, well, if someone's going to die, then we better allow this, and kind of cause a moral panic. But it's an utter lie. They're being indoctrinated in this in the schools, on social media as well, of course, but it's happening in the schools big time, and they're cutting off perfectly healthy body parts. That's not healthy. That doesn't save lives.
What happened last night regarding the issue of these inappropriate books? Was there some kind of vote that took place? Are those books going to get pulled out of Catholic school libraries in the Waterloo Catholic District? Can you give us a play-by-play of what went down last night?
Yeah, so the parents, the meeting was quite fascinating. It's disappointing that they banned the audience from recording the delegates, but they were very powerful presentations. The delegates, I believe everyone read from passages of the books in question, of the propaganda books in question, the sexually explicit passages, the open promotion of transgenderism and homosexuality and homosexual marriage, drag queens. We read from those pages to the trustees. And so they couldn't deny that this is what they allowed into the system. And I could tell it had an impact. There were a lot of questions from trustees, follow-up questions afterwards. And, a real proof, and the audience loved it. I mean, there's a lot of applause. There's a tiny handful of LGBT hecklers in the back, but almost everyone there was supportive of our position. And the proof that we had an impact on the board, that the delegations had an impact on the board, was the fact that after the delegations were all done, later on in the meeting, one of the trustees, Trustee Conrad Stanley, part of his portfolio is to report each month on whether the school board is in compliance with its code of conduct policy. And he pointed to one objective within that code of conduct policy, which is that the board of trustees are required to preserve Catholic faith and values. And he said, based on what I've heard from delegates tonight, from the parent delegates tonight and the grandparent that was speaking here, we are not in compliance. We are not preserving our Catholic faith and values. And this is the report I submit, he said. And then he proceeded to say that he is going to demand from the senior administration a list of all the books in the Waterloo Catholic School Board that contradict the Catholic faith and values. In his report, he revealed that the administration, senior administration, meaning the director of education, wanted, and they wrote this right into the multi-year strategic plan for the Waterloo Catholic School Board, 3% of all new book purchases to promote non-traditional family structures. 3% of all books in the Catholic school boards to promote non-traditional family structures.
You know, Jack, I'd like
And
to say I'm surprised by that, but I'm not. I know that the director of education there, Tyrone Dowling, he is as woke as they get. I mean, the way this school board, I should say, got on our radar going back more than 2 years ago was when they had a trustee, Wendy Ashby, who now goes by the name Wendy Jacqueline, who tweeted out on social media, the most dangerous creature, her words, is the white Christian male. Can you imagine, Jack, an unassisted triple play? Racist, sexist, and anti-Christian. And Dowling had no trouble with that. It was only because of public pressure that forced her hand into resignation. But Tyrone Dowling, he is in the process of resigning, I understand. Does that mean that these offensive books are going to be pulled out of Catholic schools in the region?
I think that's the intention of the request. And so it's going to be incumbent. Obviously, there's going to be a lot of pushback from the woke bad actors in the system that are embedded in the administration, including the director. And so the trustees are going to have to be very committed to moving ahead and making that happen. And they're going to need the moral support of Catholic parents and non-Catholic stakeholders. You know, I know for a fact there's a lot of Muslims and Protestant families who have their children in the Waterloo Catholic School Board in our schools here because they believe that all the woke and LGBT indoctrination that's in the public school system isn't going to be in the Catholic system. So they're putting their kids there as a refuge. They believe that the Catholic system is a refuge from all this LGBT brainwashing.
Yes.
And they're mistaken, unfortunately. It's not quite as bad as the public board, but it's pretty bad.
There is no live streaming of these board meetings. They will not permit you to videotape or audio record these meetings. Jack, this is an outrage. This is a taxpayer-funded school board. Why the cloak of secrecy? Why is it that if you want to witness what's going on, you have to physically be in the room and you dare not make a recorded record or you're going to get frog marched out by security? What are they trying to hide?
Well, that's precisely it. They don't want the Catholic community and other parents to know what they're doing, the dark deeds that they're doing in our schools, the brainwashing that's going on, the indoctrinating of our children with LGBT ideology, the flood of LGBT propaganda books that are in our schools. So this was, you know, I've been going to these board meetings at the WCDSB for many years, and there's always been people photographing and recording, and sometimes the press is there recording. So all of a sudden, at the last meeting, there was a parent delegating against these LGBT books, and the director of education simply instructed the security guards to not allow anyone to record. There's no policy. They just made it up because they didn't want the public to know what was going on, the dirty stuff that was going on in the Catholic School Board. Before yesterday's board meeting, the JCCF sent a letter to the chair and director warning that they may be in legal trouble if they do not rescind this impromptu censorship ban of recording in public school board meetings. Later on, towards the end of the evening, one of the trustees, actually Conrad Stanley, saw the JCCF press release and he mentioned it. And he introduced a notice of motion that at the March board meeting, he will introduce a policy to be voted on to explicitly allow audio and video recording of all public school board meetings at the Waterloo Catholic School Board.
We saw last year what happened in tiny little Emo, Ontario, 1,700 people, where people that don't even live in Emo Township filed a Human Rights Tribunal complaint, and the Human Rights Tribunal fined the township and has demanded that come this June, they better be flying those flags or there'll be even more fines. They even went into the mayor's personal bank account and removed more than $5,000. Is this a fear for the Catholic school boards that these activists are going to go to these kangaroo courts and have them do the dirty work in the enforcement of getting this agenda into Catholic schools?
Right. Well, it should be noted that the courageous Christian mayor of Emo Township and city council are fighting that.
Yes.
They're not agreeing to that Ontario Human Rights Tribunal kangaroo court demand. So that's good. And if Doug Ford was a real conservative, he'd abolish these kangaroo courts altogether. They shouldn't exist. They're just a leftist cabal to attack Christians and conservatives. But setting that aside, the Catholic school boards in Ontario have nothing to fear. The Ontario Human Rights Commission has no authority whatsoever over Catholic school boards. Catholic school boards have a constitutional right in Section 93 of the Constitution Act to reject any government mandate, regulation, or directive that contradicts or adversely affects the content of faith and morals. They have an absolute right to reject it. And that's the Constitution, the highest law of the land. Even the Ontario Human Rights Code says right in it, it has, I believe it's Section 29, if I'm not mistaken, states that nothing in the Ontario Human Rights Code shall be construed as overriding the constitutional rights of Catholic schools to have authentically Catholic schools. So if some activist were to file a human rights complaint, all the board has to do is pass a vote to say we invoke Section 93 of the Constitution Act, and this has no authority over us.
Well, folks, transanity is everywhere, isn't it? That's the intersection where radical transgenderism collides with, well, insanity. If you are sick and tired of this agenda, as we are, please go to transmadness.com. That's transmadness.com. Kindly sign the petition, and if you're able to, make a donation so that Rebel News can continue to bring you the other side of the story.